Your nervous system is not your enemy, it's your most valuable advisor. What if everything you've been taught about strength is a lie? What if the very thing you've been fighting against, your emotions, your exhaustion, your body's desperate signals, is actually the intelligence you need to access your highest performance? I recently had the privilege of sitting down with Vanessalanier Hawkins, a trauma informed coach and performance strategist who is revolutionizing how we think about success, resilience, and what it truly means to be powerful. Vanessalanier is doing something extraordinary in this world. They are challenging the narratives that have kept high achieving Black women, entrepreneurs, and leaders trapped in cycles of burnout, proving their worth through relentless output while their bodies scream for rest. They are creating a movement that says you don't have to break to be brilliant. You don't have to abandon yourself to achieve. And that, my friends, is the kind of disruption we desperately need. Their work is reshaping how we understand performance, trauma, and the cost of success that demands emotional exile. Today, I want to share with you the insights from our conversation because what Vanessa Lanier revealed is not just important, it's life changing. And it aligns perfectly with what we talk about here on Soft Girl Era, a sacred space where strong Black women unlearn survival, rediscover softness, and reclaim the joy, rest, and freedom they deserve without guilt, without apology, and without explanation. So let's dive in. Here's the truth that nobody wants to say out loud: your emotions are not obstacles to overcome, they are intelligence your body is sending you. When you learn to decode them instead of override them, you access clarity, creativity, and strategic thinking that pure willpower can never deliver. Black professionals and entrepreneurs, especially, have been conditioned to prove their worth through relentless output. We've been taught that our value is tied to how much we can endure, how much we can carry, how strong we can appear even when we're trembling inside. We've been told that vulnerability is weakness, that rest is laziness, that if we slow down, we'll be left behind. But here's what Venesalanier knows and what the research confirms: the moment you stop fighting your inner world, you free up massive amounts of energy for your actual goals. Your nervous system isn't your enemy, it's your most valuable advisor. Let me say that again because I need you to hear it. Your nervous system is not your enemy, it is your most valuable advisor. Think about that for a moment. What if the anxiety you've been medicating, the exhaustion you've been ignoring, the emotions you've been suppressing, what if all of that is your body trying to tell you something critical? What if your nervous system has been sending you intelligence all along and you've been trained to override it in the name of productivity? For decades, performance psychology emphasized mental toughness and emotional suppression as pathways to excellence. Push harder, ignore the pain, prove you're strong enough. But neuroscientific research, particularly the groundbreaking work of Dr. Stephen Porges on the polyvagal theory, revealed something revolutionary. The nervous system operates in distinct states: ventral vagal, which is safe and social; sympathetic, which is fight or flight; and dorsal vagal, which is shut down and freeze. When you operate from a place of perceived threat, your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for creativity, strategic thinking, and emotional intelligence, becomes less accessible. Instead, the amygdala and survival mechanisms dominate. You're not thinking clearly, you're surviving, you're in defense mode. And in defense mode, you cannot access innovation, clarity, flexibility, or high level cognitive ability. High achieving professionals often operate in chronic sympathetic activation. Their bodies perceive threat even when external circumstances are safe. This creates a paradox. They appear successful externally while internally experiencing trembling, anxiety, and exhaustion. Their nervous systems are in constant defense mode, which limits access to the cognitive flexibility, innovation, and emotional intelligence required for sustainable peak performance. And here's the kicker: studies show that when high achievers learn to regulate their nervous systems, they experience 40 to 60% improvements in decision making quality, creative problem solving, and leadership effectiveness. 40 to 60%. That's not marginal, that's transformational. That's the difference between surviving your success and actually enjoying it. So let's talk about what this means for you. You cannot innovate, lead authentically, or perform at your peak while your body is in survival mode. Rest isn't laziness, it's strategy. Slowing down isn't weakness, it's wisdom. When your nervous system feels safe, your brain shifts from crisis management to creative problem solving. For high achievers who've been taught that their value is tied to their output, this is revolutionary. You don't have to break to earn the right to heal. You can build excellence without building burnout. Let me tell you about research that examined emotional intelligence and leadership effectiveness in Black women leaders. These leaders face compounded pressure to prove competence in spaces where they were often underestimated or invisible. Many adopted the strong Black woman narrative, pushing through pain, suppressing emotion, and demonstrating unwavering resilience as a survival strategy in systems not designed for their success. And while that resilience is real and valuable, the cost of chronic emotional suppression manifested as burnout, health disparities, and leadership styles that, while effective in the short term, created unsustainable cultures. Black women leaders reported higher rates of burnout, health issues, and emotional exhaustion despite external success markers. Many described feeling unseen even in positions of authority, their accomplishments acknowledged, but their humanity overlooked. The pressure to be twice as good translated into nervous systems operating in chronic fight or flight, limiting their access to the emotional intelligence, creativity, and relational capacity that modern leadership demands. Additionally, showing vulnerability or admitting struggle is often weaponized against them, creating a double bind. Perform without showing the cost of performing. Succeed without revealing the sacrifice. Lead without letting anyone see you're human. But here's what happened when these leaders integrated emotional awareness with their strategic thinking. They reported increased team engagement and psychological safety, higher retention rates among diverse team members, improved decision making quality and creative problem solving, greater personal satisfaction, and reduced burnout markers, more authentic leadership presence that inspired rather than intimidated, stronger relational capacity and ability to mentor others. Organizations led by emotionally intelligent Black women who maintained nervous system safety demonstrated 25 to 35% higher employee engagement scores, improved retention of diverse talent, enhanced innovation and creative output, stronger organizational cultures built on psychological safety, leaders who modeled sustainable excellence rather than survival at scale. This research challenges the strong Black woman narrative that has long been celebrated in isolation. It demonstrates that true strength, the kind that creates lasting impact and inspires others, comes from emotional integration, not emotional suppression. And that brings me to the third lesson Vanessalanier shared. True power is expressed through alignment, not resistance. The strongest leaders aren't those who can push the hardest. They're those who remain connected to their emotional truth while moving toward their vision. Vulnerability isn't the opposite of strength, it's often the catalyst for it. When you're emotionally congruent, when your internal world supports your external goals, you don't just perform better, you become unstoppable in a way that doesn't require self abandonment. Research on trauma integration in military veterans and high achievers validates this. Military training and high pressure professional environments often condition individuals to operate in survival mode, to suppress emotion, override physical signals, and prioritize mission completion over personal well being. This training creates exceptional short term performers, but often results in long term psychological fragmentation, burnout, and health crises. Individuals trained in suppression based performance models often face difficulty transitioning from crisis mode to sustainable living. Inability to access emotional intelligence required for relational depth and authentic leadership. Chronic nervous system dysregulation manifesting as hypervigilance, sleep disruption, and health issues. Fragmentation between their professional self, controlled, capable, untouchable, and their private self. Struggling, overwhelmed, disconnected. But when these individuals integrated their trauma and emotional experience, they reported sustainable high performance without the cost of burnout, deeper relational capacity, and authentic leadership presence, greater clarity about values and purpose, improved physical health markers and sleep quality, ability to access creativity and strategic thinking more readily, sense of wholeness rather than fragmentation, capacity to mentor and lead from authenticity rather than armor. Veterans and high achievers who underwent trauma integration reported 50 to 70% reduction in PTSD and anxiety symptoms, improved quality of life and relational satisfaction, sustained high performance in new roles without the previous exhaustion, greater ability to lead with vulnerability and authenticity, capacity to build psychologically safe teams and organizations. This research validates that suppression based performance models create short term results at the cost of long term well being. It demonstrates that the strongest individuals are not those who can endure the most pain without breaking. They're those who can integrate their pain and still move forward with purpose. So, what would happen if more people and organizations adopted this perspective? People would stop performing from a place of fear and start creating from a place of purpose. The chronic exhaustion that high achievers normalize would become recognized as a warning signal, not a badge of honor. Black professionals and entrepreneurs who have historically been conditioned to prove their worth through relentless output would have permission to build excellence without building burnout. We'd see a massive reduction in anxiety, depression, and stress related health crises among high performers. People would experience their achievements as something to be present for rather than something to survive. That's not a small shift. That's liberation. Companies that prioritize nervous system safety and emotional integration would see higher retention rates, particularly among diverse talent who have historically been asked to assimilate and suppress. Improved innovation and creative problem solving because brains operating in safety mode access prefrontal cortex functioning. Stronger psychological safety, which research shows correlates with team performance and psychological well being. Reduced burnout and associated healthcare costs. More authentic leadership that inspires rather than intimidates. Cultures where people can bring their whole selves to work, not just their professional selves. At the cultural level, we would begin to dismantle the strong Black woman, self made man, and grind culture narratives that have glorified suffering as proof of worth. We would normalize rest as a performance tool, not a luxury. We would recognize that the most powerful leaders are those who remain connected to their emotional world, not detached from it. We would stop praising people for ignoring themselves and start celebrating people for integrating themselves. Research shows that when organizations prioritize psychological safety and emotional intelligence, they see 20 to 40% improvements in team performance, innovation, and retention. If this perspective became mainstream, we would see a generation of leaders who model sustainable excellence, reduced health disparities among high achieving populations, more authentic relational workplaces where people feel seen and valued, a shift in how we measure success from output alone to output with well being, greater diversity and inclusion because people from marginalized communities would no longer have to choose between belonging and authenticity. The ripple effect would be profound. When people experience that they can be soft and strategic, emotionally aware and unstoppable, they give themselves permission to lead differently. They model for their teams, their families, and their communities that excellence doesn't require self abandonment. So here's what I want you to remember: stop trying to be so strong that you no longer feel. Start becoming so connected that nothing you feel disrupts your strength. Your emotions are not your weakness, your disconnection from them is. The moment you stop fighting your inner world and start listening to it, everything changes. You don't need to be harder to be effective. You need to be more attuned. And here's my challenge for you: not next week, not tomorrow, but right now, in this moment, I want you to pause. Just pause, take a breath, a real one. Not the shallow kind you take between emails, not the survival breath you take before the next meeting. A deep, intentional, soul filling breath. And as you breathe, I want you to ask yourself one question: when was the last time I checked in with myself? Not my to do list, not my responsibilities, not my performance metrics, but with me. When was the last time I asked myself how I'm really doing and actually waited for an answer? Because here's the truth: you've been performing, you've been achieving, you've been pushing. But have you been present? Have you been connected? Have you been listening to the intelligence your body has been sending you all along? This isn't about being passive. This isn't about lowering your standards. This is about accessing a level of strategic clarity that pure willpower can never deliver. This is about gathering intelligence. Your body knows things your mind hasn't processed yet. Your nervous system is trying to protect you and guide you. The moment you start treating your emotions as data instead of a noise, you access power you didn't know you had. So this week, become an observer of your own experience. Notice when you're pushing from survival and when you're moving from purpose. Notice when your nervous system feels safe and when it feels threatened. Don't judge it, just notice. Because the fastest route to peak performance isn't intensifying resistance, it's increasing integration. And integration starts with paying attention. You deserve to succeed without sacrificing yourself. That's not just possible. That's the future of performance. That's your soft girl era. That's the revolution Vanessalanier Hawkins is leading. And that's the world we're building together. Now go and listen to yourself. Go and honor what you feel. Go and build something extraordinary, not in spite of your emotions, but because of them. Go and become the kind of leader who doesn't just survive success, but actually lives it. The world doesn't need more people who are strong enough to break. The world needs more people who are connected enough to bend, to feel, to integrate, and to rise whole and powerful and undeniably human. That's your invitation. That's your challenge. That's your revolution. Will you accept it?